Okay. Further debate. I recognize the member for Beaches, East York.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. And today I will be sharing my time with the member for Ottawa South. The amazing member for Ottawa South, actually. Bill 185, Cutting Red Tape to Build More Homes Act. The government is being a little sneaky because, yes, the Minister of Housing did not put forward this bill, but it was under his role as Minister of Legislative Affairs, not as Minister of Housing. This is all they would let the minister get away with, which I suppose, after what I hear from some intense cabinet meetings. And the thing is, it is literally so far from an actual housing bill that they cannot even call this a housing bill and propose it by the Minister of Housing. So that's telling. That is very telling. The legacy of this government will be how it failed young people, families, and newcomers by making the dream of home ownership a nightmare. What a shame. What a wasted opportunity. You know, when I'm out and about in my community, I hear from young people. I also have 2 young people I call my children, and they're so disheartened. They're just so disheartened. Some of them leaving Ontario. Yesterday I heard prices of homes in Scotland are a third of what they are in Ontario. So such a shame to lose our youth because we can't get it done. The province is proposing to study the building code and the changes that would make 4-story buildings easier to build. That's great. Yet they refuse to allow 4-plexes as of right across Ontario. How does that even make sense? I think cutting red tape should mean skipping these extra steps and implementing provincial zoning standards, not relying on municipalities to do this for you. We've proposed to do this with the Build Bill put forward by my colleague, the member from Don Valley East. And what was the government's response? A bill that is not even enough about housing to be put forward by the Ministry of Housing. Where is the leadership? Parking minimums in protected major transit station areas are to be prohibited, as well as in areas where minimum densities are required by official plans or provincial policies. So Bill 185 will eliminate parking minimums near major transit stations. Again, this is good. It's a good thing for densifying these areas. However, the Minister of Housing has still not approved the MTSAs in Toronto. I think he's getting tired of me asking where these approvals are, but I will not be quiet about it until he approves them. So what is the point of the elimination of parking minimums if these areas don't have approval yet to build? As I have said before, tick-tock, you need a clock, Minister. Something Bill 185 does do is to allow 18-story mass timber construction, which is a step in the right direction, as it will help bring down construction costs, and mass timber can store carbon for generations, keeping it out of the atmosphere. More of that, please. And more of removing the requirements to drywall over this cross-laminate timber. However, changes to the rules around development charges are disappointing. Development charges in municipalities like Toronto have increased much more rapidly than property taxes, unfairly burdening newcomers and young people entering the housing market. Limiting the rates of increases to these taxes is reasonable. It does not make sense to excessively tax construction of new housing during a housing shortage, yet the province is backtracking to allow this. The government's proposed provincial planning statement coupled with this bill seems calculated to ensure that the Greenbelt sprawl and real estate scandal, still under an RCMP criminal investigation, may I remind you, spreads and expands into a wave of suburban greenfield scandals. I think they could have called it the Cutting Environmental Protections and Building More Sprawl Act. That would be a much more accurate title. Bill 185 would hinder efforts to speed up housing construction by promoting the wasteful, low-density sprawl that has already caused Ontario's housing shortage. Why does the government continue to ignore the advice of experts? They refuse to follow the advice of their own Housing Affordability Task Force as well. This year's Blueprint for More and Better Housing, which was co-authored by former federal Conservative Deputy Leader Lisa Raitt. Time and time again, we hear the same thing. Focus on new housing in cities and communities where there is existing infrastructure to cut housing costs, speed up construction times, reduce carbon pollution, and prevent catastrophic loss due to climate threats like wildfire and flooding. Yet Bill 185, with this bill, they would effectively wipe out the protective settlement area boundaries and municipal comprehensive review processes that prevent low-density sprawl from destroying what remains of farmland and natural areas. This government is refusing to take responsibility for building housing in Ontario. They're at risk of losing federal funding for housing, and I don't think the non-housing housing bill 185 is going to cut it. They want to pass the buck onto municipalities because they don't have the courage or foresight to be bold and build housing themselves. The truth is, many of these municipalities are made up of NIMBY councillors and groups. But hey, so is this government, so we really can't be surprised that they too refuse to act. So here we are 6 years later into this government reign, and we are no longer closer to solving the housing crisis. Bill 185 is not even a housing bill. It does not do enough. This government reverses so much, they seem to only be driving Ontario backwards.
She said she's sharing her time. Yeah. Thank you.